Greetings and welcome to another Age of Empires Online tips and concepts video. Whether you're here for my excellent production quality or just here to learn how to improve your PvP game, you are in for a treat. I have hand selected 10 intermediate tips for you today that, in combination with the knowledge that you learned from my last video, shameless plug is shameless, should take your Sparta PvP skills to the next level. With that, let's get started. Number 1. Hotkeys. The purpose of hotkeys is to allow you to spend as little time as possible completing the tasks that you need to do. It's much faster to press a spacebar to zip across the map, finding your idle villagers and pressing G to build your guard towers before the enemy rushes your base than to use your mouse for everything. These handy little shortcuts can improve how quickly you can jump from unit to unit, grow your army, and command your legion of mighty villagers. Make sure that before jumping into a serious game of PvP that you take a look at all of the different hotkeys available. My top 5 for you to make sure you have nailed down are idle villagers, storehouse build hotkey, house build hotkey, scout, and control groups. It is necessary to use hotkeys if you want to get better. You won't be fast at first, but remember, as you practice, it'll become second nature to you, just like riding a bike. Number 2, know your maps. Each map is unique. Some are small, like Oasis. Some have lots of water, like Treasure Island or Coastal. Some, like Equal Footing, are balanced as all things should be. And then there's Arabia, the best map that there is, where you are safe from spearman rushes. Eerie, not again, man, come on. Every map has its own gimmick and unique layout that you'll need to understand, like where the hunts are, and if you need to be aware that there could be a sneaky dock from your opponents just ready to destroy your wood. Like, come on. Some may require you to battle on the water, while others may benefit from a few, maybe a lot of walls. Make sure that you know the map pool well so you can help establish your Number 3, build order. Your build order is the first part of your game plan. In general, you have 3 main types of game plans. One is the spearman rush. Second is your quick second town center build. And the third is a water build. The build order that you choose depends on several factors, including your scouting, the map that you are playing on, your personal preference, and who your enemy is. Knowing your general game plan will help you with your build order. A guide to the 3 types of build orders can be found in Sparta, explaining in detail the first few critical opening minutes. It is important to remember that although you have a plan, you still need to be flexible. If your opponent is rushing you with spearmen, you may need to build a barracks of your own. Number 4, spending your resources. If you have 1,000 food 5 minutes into a game, something has gone horribly wrong. Your goal from an economy or macro perspective should be to spend your food, wood, gold, and stone as quickly as possible on items that would benefit you the most. As an example, let's say you have 0 food and your villagers scrounge together 50 food. You want to spend that 50 food as soon as possible on another villager. It does you no good to gather 200 food before training your villagers. The same principle applies to your entire economy. Your goal from an economy or macro perspective should be to spend all of your resources as soon as possible. When you are unable to do so, we call it floating resources. Resources sitting in your bank aren't helping anyone. Saving it up for the next age or large upgrades are definitely necessary, but if you are floating a lot of gold or wood, there's likely an issue with your economy's balance. Either you have too many villagers on a specific resource, in which case shifting your villagers around to a different resources may be the cure-all that you need, or you just might need to be spending more on production facilities, villagers, or creating a larger army, depending on the situation, of course. Next time you're in a game, make sure to keep an eye on the resources you're floating and adjust accordingly. Number 5, scouting. As I alluded to earlier, your game plan relies as much on what your preferred gameplay style is, as well as what your opponent is doing. As a general rule of thumb, I like to use scouting as the decision-making point. And in fact, early on, I'll choose to wait until I see a barracks from my opponent through my scout before using any of the wood that I gathered early on to build a barracks of my own. Scouting provides you the information that you can use to make tactical decisions, and the best decisions are of course made with the most information. Without scouting, you are literally in the dark, Creating an army and attacking into your opponent's base without knowing what unit composition they have or where they are most exposed and vulnerable is a recipe for disaster. Scouting provides you options, and exploiting those options is what's going to win you the game. If you don't know, you can't act. Number 6, raiding. Raiding is the single strongest tool in your Age of Empires Online arsenal. It can change the course of a game, be the straw that finally gold starves your opponent or forces their marching army to turn back to defend their precious little villagers. Raiding usually focuses on killing villagers, production facilities, houses, and markets. Understanding which of these targets to attack and when is extremely important. If you're in the early game, it is always advised to go for villagers. However, production facilities are a great pickup when you know that your opponent has very few. Markets and gold gathering villagers are important to attack in the mid to late game, as gold is usually the resource that players are struggling for the most. And finally, houses are just an overall good target to try to pop cap your opponent. The reason raiding is so important is because of the risk-reward trade-off. For a relatively small army size, in many cases as small as a few spearmen, you can cause your opponent to lose gathering time, disrupt their flow, and most importantly of all, gain. Number 7, map control. Ah yes, the alluring map control. Casters love to talk about how critical map control is, but we rarely mention why. Map control provides you with several key benefits. Chief among them is access to protected resources. Early in the game, you often see players build their second town center on a gold mine or a stone or a hunt to protect their villagers from any impending raids and allow for easy garrisons. Late game, you may see map control established by large armies as well as fortresses, putting sustained pressure on key resources like gold. Map control also affords you incredible line of sight across the map. If you can use it correctly, you can starve your opponent out of resources they may need to continue producing units, which is a very successful strategy. Number 8, upgrades. Armies clashing but can't seem to ever break through? Do your units get steamrolled despite having the right composition and a larger army? You may be building Egyptian barracks units, or you just might be missing a very important key to success in Age of Empires Online: upgrades. These helpful little golden icons provide incredible benefits for an initial investment, usually gold. There are storehouse upgrades that can help increase your villagers' aptitude for gathering specific resources, unit upgrades that beef up the stats of specific units or group of units, and armory upgrades. Armory upgrades, in particular, alter specific attack values, such as melee or pierce damage, as well as the armor for all of your units. To find out what armory upgrades your opponent has, hover over their units and look for these icons. The color indicates the age of the upgrade. Make sure you are not falling behind in game. Upgrades are almost always beneficial, but may take time to pay off, so make sure that you're only purchasing the ones that you think you can get value from. You probably don't need that upgrade for those guard towers if you only have one. Number 9, the surround. Alternatively known as the play of the game, the surround or flank is a form of microing your units for positional advantage. These are the flashy and satisfying maneuvers that crush armies. The goal of a surround is usually to have a specific unit type, attack, or vulnerable unit type. The reason the surround is so effective is because of the way that engagements take place in Age of Empires Online. Not all units are attacking in battle. The larger the surface area of your attacking units, the more your units are engaging in the fight, and the higher your damage output will be. For your enemy, the reason this can be so damning is because unless specifically told not to, units will attack the enemies closest to them. In many cases, having bowmen and other ranged units attacking cavalry units that they aren't super effective against, instead of their more effective infantry counters. Other forms of microing, aside from the surround, include attacking specific hurt villagers, having your hurt spearmen retreat in early battles, and slinger tagging, where you select a small group of slingers, manually direct them to attack enemy bowmen to avoid their shots hitting the infantry and doing less effective damage. These small and sometimes flashy plays allow you to turn the tides of battle, so make sure you look out for them and use them. Number 10. Watch high-level games. Second only to practicing yourself, the best thing you can do for your game is to watch how the best play. I had the pleasure of recently casting some games with Prez Steve in the company of many other amazing casters and players. The games were fast-paced, invigorating, and some of the best I've ever seen. I have explained to you today 9 high-level concepts and tactics, but unless you see Eerie circling Recon's base like a shark, you won't really understand what effective raiding can look like, or how powerful map control is. Each game inspires me to play and get better, and I'm sure it will have the same effect on you. So I've linked the most recent tournament down below. You'll get to watch me cast a few games and just have a great time viewing all of the incredible, unique play that came out of the most recent tournament. So there you have it. 10 tips and concepts you can take into your next game and crush the Sparta ladder. We slowly built your game up from before you even set foot in a 1v1 game by understanding hotkeys, the different maps, and your build order. We transitioned into the early game, learning why spending your resources, scouting, and raiding are so important, and we finished off with critical concepts like map control, upgrades, and the surround. All that's left is for you to employ your newfound knowledge. Thanks to everybody who provided clips, Steve and Arshir. Make sure to subscribe if you liked it, and make sure to follow my Twitch for when I am not studying and playing Age of Empires Online. Look forward to seeing you then.